Now, in this demonstration, we'll take a look at using events in MySQL. And these are certainly similar to triggers in that it is still something that executes automatically, for lack of a better word, but triggers fire in response to some kind of a change to the database. We saw in our previous demonstration that if you update a record, then that can fire a trigger to capture that. So events still execute automatically, but not in response to some kind of a change, but rather on a schedule. So hence the name event. It's something that you schedule and then it simply happens. Now, in this case, you do need to ensure that the event scheduler is turned on. So there are, in fact, a few different statements you can execute for that. But this very first statement here accomplishes this. So you can set global event scheduler equal to on. You can also use a global variable and set the value to 1 for on, 0 for off. But this certainly accomplishes enabling the feature. And then you simply create the event, and with respect to what the event does, really that can be anything. So you just want to try to identify anything that you do on a regular basis within your database environment. And as opposed to having to do it manually, you create the event to do it for you. Now, a common example is simply doing a backup. You might truncate records out of a table, which in fact is what I'm doing here, simply to clear out records that are no longer needed. So we'll just look at a basic event here, which does in fact just truncate records out of my audit table. Now, in a practical environment, you probably would not clear an audit table all that often. You want the record, but at the same time, you don't want the table to get exceptionally large. So if you regularly monitor that table and you go through and you check all the entries and everything looks good, well, then maybe it's fine to actually truncate those records out. Again, that keeps the table small. But in terms of my schedule here, I'm clearly just doing this for demonstration purposes. You can see the schedule is every 1 minute, just so that we can see the results. But the code itself is simply create event. And as always, this is just the name of the event. So I'm clearing my payment audit table that I used for the trigger demonstration. On schedule, every, and this is your interval, and this accepts a number of values, second, minute, hour, day. So really just try to figure out what the appropriate schedule is for your event. But do take note, it's just singular. So if I were to say 2, for example, it would not be 2 minutes, it's just minute. And then do is, of course, the operation itself. So that's where it really can be anything. So in my case, I'm just using the truncate table command, which just deletes all the records. It keeps the structure of the table, so it's not dropping the table, but it just eliminates all records. So a very simple statement. It would equate to deleting from the table without a where clause. Okay? And then, of course, which table it should operate on. So here is the payment audit table, and you can see I've selected the records out, and there are still my original 2 records. So let's go ahead and create the event. I've already run the set global event scheduler equals on statement. So we'll just create the event. Okay, so that has completed successfully. And I'm just going to pause for a minute now and let that time elapse. Then we'll go back and refresh that table to verify that it did clear the records out. Okay, so I've let about 2 minutes elapse now just to be safe. And you can see I have not executed any other statements, only the create event statement down here. Let's go back to the payment audit table. Let's reselect, and sure enough, the records are gone. So our event successfully cleared out those records and will continue to do so, in this case, every minute. Now again, as mentioned, in a practical environment, you certainly would not clear out that table this frequently. But you could certainly do something like this every 7 day, perhaps. That might be a little more realistic, so that as you go through maybe and verify all of the entries weekly, you simply let it clear itself out at the end of each week or something along those lines. Now, to drop the event, you can simply issue the drop event statement and again specify only by name, and that will remove the event. Okay, so again, it really comes down to just determining what kind of actions you need to take on what kind of schedule. So again, they're similar to triggers in that they execute automatically, but based on the schedule, as opposed to responding to some kind of a chain.